What do I record right here? Right here? Okay. What's good, relatives? Appreciate y'all tuning in, tapping in, commenting, sharing, liking, subscribing. It's only up from here, and it's stuck. Let's jump into the video. We got money right here. We're going to learn about some money real quick. How the U.S. dollar became the world's reserve currency. I said how the U.S. dollar became the world's reserve currency. Why do I say that? Because I had to go look that up. Now we're going to jump right into it. A world currency is any money that can freely be used or exchanged for another currency inside or outside the borders of the country that issues it. It may also be called a global currency. The first U.S. dollar is the official currency of the United States. The dollar was first printed in 1914, a year after the establishment of the Federal Reserve, as the U.S. Central Bank with the passing of the Federal Reserve Act. 3 decades later, the dollar officially became the world's reserve currency. The first U.S. dollar was printed in 1914 after the Federal Reserve Bank was created. These are the takeaways. The Allies paid the U.S. for supplies using gold during World War I, propelling the U.S. to become the largest holder of gold, the largest. In the fourth quarter of 2023, 58.4% of allocated foreign bank reserves were denominated in U.S. dollars. Now, I wonder why. I wonder, was this discussed at the round table? Did they plan that? Was it orchestrated? So we got the history of the U.S. dollar. Boom. So we'll read something different this time. The first documented use of paper currency in the U.S. dates back to 1690, when colonial notes were issued by the Massachusetts Bay Colony. These notes were used to fund military operations. Interesting, right? So is this how they're getting by, just to get fly? It wasn't until 1776 that the first $2 bill was introduced. Not till 1776, man. And we've been doing our homework on the 17s. Could have been yesterday. How do you know? 9 years later, in 1785, the U.S. officially adopted the dollar sign, using the symbol for the Spanish American peso as a guide. Spanish American. So why doesn't it say Mexican American? Never mind, man. Listen. A lot was happening. The government established the OCC, comptroller of the currency, and the National Currency Bureau in 1863. These two agencies handled new banknotes. Centralized printing began at the Bureau of Engraving and Printing in 1869. Before this, money was printed by private companies. The U.S. Treasury began issuing the nation's legal tender in 1890, more than a decade before the creation of the Federal Reserve. I said it was more. The Federal Reserve Act of 1913. Let's do our homework. Let's learn, build, and grow off that right there. I said the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 created the Federal Reserve Bank to respond to the unreliability and instability of a currency system that was previously banked on banknotes issued by individual banks. So only one of them, y'all. The U.S. economy, or one of them plural. Listen, you never know with them, huh? The U.S. economy surpassed that of the United Kingdom, though world commerce still centered around the UK, with transactions taking place in British pounds. So, is that who your allies are? Was that who their allies were? I was asking them. Comment below what you think of that. That's the gold standard. Gold standard did a number. The majority of developed countries pegged their currencies to gold as a way to stabilize currency exchanges. When World War I broke out in 1914, many countries suspended the gold standard to pay their military expenses with paper money, the paper, which devalued their currencies. Britain held to the gold standard to maintain its position as the world's leading currency and found itself borrowing money for the first time during the third year of the war. Money. Funds means anything convertible into money. So a pair of shoes, a table you don't really like, pawn shop material, antique shop, modern French, a monnaie, or whatever, however you say it in French, right? From Latin, moneta, or moneta, place for coining money, mint, coin money, coinage. The first bank of the United States, Alexander Hamilton's grand experiment in central banking began in 1791 to assist a post-Revolutionary War economy and ended 20 years later. The first bank, you got the first dollar, the $1 bill, right? Why didn't it start with 20? And then you got this being planned a while ago, and that's what I'm saying. I think maybe it was planned a little more recently. What do you say about that? The United States of America, a name that new country had adopted under the Articles of Confederation, was beset with problems. The 1780s saw widespread economic disruption. The new nation's leaders had their work cut out for them, reestablishing commerce and industry, repaying war debt, restoring the value of the currency, and lowering inflation. It's always something about the inflation, huh? One prominent architect of the fledgling country, Alexander Hamilton, the first Secretary of the Treasury under the new Constitution, had ambitious ideas. Now, see, I wonder about that. Now, if it's a new Constitution, what was wrong with the old one? Or what was wrong with the new one? The old one had to exist first. See, questions like those. Had ambitious ideas about how to solve some of these problems. One of those was creating a national bank in December 1790. Hamilton submitted a report to Congress in which he outlined his proposal. Hamilton used the charter of the Bank of England as the basis for his plan. Interesting, right? British, then you got England. Things were happening. He argued that an American version of this institution could issue paper money, also called banknotes or currency, provide a safe place to keep public funds, offer banking facilities for commercial transactions, and act as the government's fiscal agent. Now, if you start businesses, you know about the fiscal agent, don't you? Including collecting the government's tax revenues and paying the government's debts. Not everyone agreed with Hamilton's plan. Thomas Jefferson was afraid that a national bank would create a financial monopoly that might undermine state banks and adopt policies that favored financiers and merchants, who tended to be creditors, over plantation owners and family farmers, who tended to be debtors. Such an institution clashed with Jefferson's vision of the United States as a chiefly agrarian society, not one based on banking, commerce, and industry. Jefferson also argued that the Constitution did not grant the government the authority to establish corporations. What do we have there? I said Jefferson also argued that the Constitution did not grant the government the authority to establish corporations. Incredible. Including a national bank. So they want to be able to establish their corporations, is what I'm getting at. Despite the opposing voices, Hamilton's bill cleared both the House and the Senate after much debate. President Washington signed the bill into law in February 1791. So you got bills 1791, you got things happening in 1791, don't you? We're gonna put that where it's best suited at. Checks and balances. And if you want to ever read the origins and economic impact of the first bank of the United States, be my guest. Counterfeiting dates to the invention of money. Even wampum was the target of counterfeiters. That's an Indian thing. Wampum is a city, it's a currency, but it's also a city in Pennsylvania. A traditional shell bead of the eastern woodland tribes. Pretty much your first currency. So Pennsylvania got the money, right? Pennsylvania get the bag. Forgery proved such a huge problem around the world that harsh penalties were enacted. Chinese currency from about the 14th century carried the warning that counterfeiters would be decapitated, and England was known for punishing perpetrators by burning them at the stake. In the American colonies too, death greeted early counterfeiters. Numerous measures were taken to prevent forgeries. Ben Franklin, who owned a firm that printed money for several colonies, notably misspelled Pennsylvania, believing that counterfeiters would correct the error in their forgeries. Today, anti-countering measures are much more elaborate. For example, the $20 bill, the most counterfeited note in the U.S., has raised printing and a watermark and security thread that are visible when the note is held to the light. However, penalties for counterfeiting have relaxed. I wonder why they relaxed. A lot of money came out of nowhere, huh? In the United States, the maximum prison sentence is 20 years. That's what makes the currency worth anything. We'll even go to coins. While the use of metal for money can be traced back to Babylon before 2000 BCE, what if we're in the future and they're writing this in the past? Or what if we're in the past and they're writing this in the future? Or what if they wrote it and we just got to read it? Standardized and certified coinage may not have existed until the 7th century BCE. Again, we don't pay attention to that. Do the calendar thing. According to many historians, it was during this time that the Kingdom of Lydia, present-day Turkey, issued the first regulated coins. So Turkey's issuing the first regulated coins, quote unquote. They appeared during the reign circa 610, circa 560 BCE. You go backwards with the BCE calendar, of King Alyattes, and were made of electrum, a natural mixture of gold and silver, cruelly shaped like beans. These coins featured the royal symbol, a lion, Alyattes' son, Croesus, reigned circa 560 to 546. Reformed the kingdom's currency, introducing silver coins and gold coins. Soon such currency began appearing elsewhere. Interesting. Early American colonists used English, Spanish, and French money while they were under English rule. What am I speaking with you? Copy that. However, in 1775, when the Revolutionary War became inevitable, the Continental Congress authorized the issuance of currency to finance the conflict. Paul Revere made the first plates for his continental currency. Those notes were redeemable in Spanish mil dollars. The depreciation of this currency gave rise to the phrase, not worth a continental. After the U.S. Constitution was ratified, Congress passed the Mint Act, of April 2nd, 1792, which established the coinage of the United States as the dollar as the principal, and the dollar as the principal unit of currency. By this act, the U.S. became the first country in the world to adopt a decimal system of currency. The first U.S. coins were struck in 1793 at the Philadelphia Mint and presented to Martha Washington. Boom. The government did not issue paper money until 1861. In the interim years, however, the government did issue treasury notes intermittently during periods of financial stress, such as the War of 1812, the Mexican War of 1846, and the Panic of 1857. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Hit that like button if you can relate. Join the Discord if you like to learn and build. All this knowledge, you got to build something with it, right? I'm just trying to collect as much as I can. Y'all bear with me, man, bear with me. Under Continental Congress Acts of 1878 and 1886, 5 different issues silver certificates were produced, ranging from $1 to $1,000 notes. The Treasury exchanged silver certificates for silver dollars because the size and weight of the silver coins made them unpopular. Excuse me. I think I was trying to say made the unpopular money exist. You never know with me. The last series of silver certificates was issued in 1923. However, the last series of modern silver certificates produced were the series 1957B, 1935H $1 notes, series 1953C $5 notes, and 1953B $10 notes. During the same period, 1793 to 1861, approximately 1,600 private banks were permitted to print and circulate their own paper currency under state charters. So starting private banks, is that what we doing, y'all? We gonna start one? What's happening? What's the haps, Cap? What we doing? Eventually, 7,000 varieties of these state bank notes, quote, end quote, were put in circulation, each carrying a different design. With the onset of the Civil War, the government, desperate for money to finance the war, passed the Act of July 17, 1861, permitting the Treasury Department to print and circulate paper money. The first paper money issued by the government were demand notes, commonly referred to as greenbacks. You ever read the Green Book? I got all 3 of them. If I'm missing one, y'all let me know. In 1862, Congress retired the demand notes and began issuing United States notes, also called legal tender notes. So let's read about leather money. All right, we're getting money from different things, right? So it's pretty much animal hide, leather and animal hide, right? Began to be fashioned in the currency. Cool. Paper money. Given that paper is widely believed to have originated in China, it is fitting that the country introduced paper currency. Very interesting. The gold standard. Again, unsurprisingly, currency comes with a number of problems, one of which concerns fiat money. This is currency that is issued on the fiat decree of a sovereign government and, unlike gold and silver coins, has no intrinsic value. Boom, bam, thank you, man. This became such a problem that in 1821, the United Kingdom, then the leader in international finance, introduced the gold standard. In this monetary system, the standard unit of currency is typically kept at the value of a fixed quantity of gold, which increases confidence in international trade by preventing governments from excessively issuing currency. You can't be too excessive. That's something you gotta know if you want to get into international trade and commerce, right? Right? Eventually, other countries, including Germany, France, and the United States, adopted the gold standard. However, the system had its drawbacks. Notably, it limited a country's ability to isolate its economy from depression or inflation in the rest of the world. After the Great Depression, 1929 circa 1939, countries began to rethink the gold standard, and by the 1970s, gold was no longer being tied to currency. Since then, there have been a number of extreme cases of hyperinflation. A notable case is Zimbabwe in the early 2000s, when the country issued currency in denominations as high as $100 trillion. And you ask yourself, who are the millionaires? You ask yourself, what can I do with $100 trillion? Which was worth about a loaf of bread. They was just playing with you. You're not gonna get that. Man, the Massachusetts Bay Colony should probably be dug into. So money, by definition, right? Not etymology this time. But it's gonna be the same, along the same lines, just different wording. Check it out. Something generally accepted as a medium of exchange, a measure of value, or a means of payment, such as officially coined or stamped metal currency, money of account, paper money, wealth reckoned in terms of money and amounts of money, a form of denomination of coin or paper money. The first, second, and third place winners, as in a horse or dog race, usually used in the phrases "in the money" or "out of the money." By 1811, many of those who had opposed the bank in 1790 to 91 still opposed it for the same reasons and said the charter should be allowed to expire. By this point, Alexander Hamilton was dead, killed in a duel with Aaron Burr, and his pro-bank Federalist Party was out of power, while the Democratic Republican Party was in control. Furthermore, by 1811, the number of state banks had increased greatly, and those financial institutions feared both competition from a national bank and its power. On that, I'll leave. I'll pick back up where I left off. I have all tabs saved. Just comment on like the community tab or join the Discord. Let's get things going. Join the Discord. Let's connect over there. Get everybody together. All these banks are possible. LLC, incorporate, whatever you feel like doing, man. You got to know how to run a business. You got to know how to get that business to thrive. If it's not doing nothing right now, give it some time. Business will start booming before you know it. All love, relatives. Peace and love to the great ones. This how we do it. We party, we boogie. Salute, salute, salute. Yeah, the children got to clean up. They know I'm going to get on them. All love. Till the next time, relatives. Y'all be easy.